I'm gonna buy that one and that one. All of it. I need it all. Do you want it though? Where do I begin? I see the hate, they don't wanna see me win. Bank deposits, I got more coming in. Top down, throw the money in the wind. I don't want it all. Heard the scammer had to switch up the accounts. Moving paper, gotta call it my account. It's all in, I can have it coming out. Been through the struggle, I can see another drought. Yeah, it's not a purse, it's a merch. 6 figures was a goal, now it's 9 or a hearse. Put it work. Used to pull up, not swerve. No time for the snakes, time to put them in the dirt. That's word. I gotta get it.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Educators Roundtable. You know, we're going to continue our conversation tonight around education equity, but we're going to focus on various different areas and just have a broader conversation about looking at education today and the things that we can begin doing, not just in the classrooms, but working with parents, working with our community to see how we can shift how education takes place. You know, working as an IT consultant across the United States, not just in education, but with companies as well, I often, and we've already had the conversation numerous times on this podcast, are we truly preparing our students for the jobs that they're going to have tomorrow? Not the jobs of today, but the jobs of tomorrow. So when we look at what's needed, and I always say, you know, if teachers took a closer look to the job market right now, Shannon, obviously we would see that tech is at the top, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they said we have a shortage of cybersecurity people to the point that they're like some of the highest paid staff in companies. They're giving them bonuses to stay with companies in cybersecurity because we have such a shortage. So I walk in and out of classrooms, and I know a lot of school districts don't have the money that some other school districts do to make those advancements. But how many classrooms, and I'm very sure because of the state of New York, you guys go to other states and you look at what other people are doing. How many classrooms have you been in over the past 5 years, not just in New York, but across the United States, that still have chalkboards or just regular whiteboards that, I'm just curious how many? That's just a question.
Or just regular whiteboards that have been used as chalkboards?
Yes.
Sadly, most of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you see that and you know that that's the case, education really can't be taking place at a level it needs to be taking place that aligns to the jobs of tomorrow.
I think you are 100% correct, and I would say that largely is directly correlated to teacher preparation programs. Like how are we preparing teachers to exit their programs and meaningfully meet the needs of these students? I mean, I'm talking about in today's society in preparation for, problems that haven't even been thought of yet. And I the 4-year universities are behind, like seriously behind with respect to that, sadly, but true.
And so you just hit the nail on the head. If K-12 is behind, and then we're looking at colleges, universities, graduate school, they're behind. And this is not across all content areas or areas of industry and growth, because I know for me in science and technology, they're actually a lot further ahead. But then when you look at some other areas, that's education is still teaching, 70, 80s. And still right now today, they're not even introducing to teachers the type of technology that they'll be using tomorrow. So I'm a little bit confused sometimes with the impact that they think they're going to make in the classroom and making that pivot. Because the other day I was watching something, and this little baby, a friend of mine sent me this TikTok, and the baby was just crying. Literally, this is a baby that can't talk, can't walk, just laying in the bed, crying, laying on their stomach. And literally the mother looked at the baby laying on the bed and put the phone down, and the baby pulls itself to the phone and starts and calm down. This is a baby, no words, no talking. So what does that say to you about how children are really being immersed in technology and the demand that they have? It's like they crave it like candy.
Yeah, and but I also think that that's a double-edged sword. I think that the exposure to technology has to be age appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
and screens, unfortunately, should not be used as babysitters. And so, um, you know, and I don't know if we've had this conversation. Maybe we have, but our young people's brains are literally being rewired by the technology, and the likes and the followers, and the synapses firing when someone leaves a comment. That's all program behavior. And I think that there has to be someone supporting our young people in navigating that world in an informed way. And sadly, in most instances, that's not the case.
I'm going to say, sadly, there are adults who crave it so badly. How can they be the example? I mean, unfortunately, you have teachers who are in classrooms so focused on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and who like something that they posted that they can't even embrace the concept of, I need to teach my class because they're waiting for people to get to 100 likes.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I keep forgetting how young our new crop of teachers currently
Mhm.
are, and they are not too far from what I once would have considered a very young person. So
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, you hit that on the head.
And so our seasoned teachers, we have like a flip in our dynamics. It's like you got a large population who are seasoned teachers who are not accustomed to using the technology. I think some of them made the transition just to using a desktop, but now we have so much more advanced technology that they're like, well, I'm using this laptop. This is huge. You attach the camera to it, I'm doing something. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum where you got all these young teachers who are coming in and that's all they know is technology because they use it. They're breathing it. It's part of their everyday. It's like an extension of their fingers, of their mind. So to them, the way they use technology is totally different. And one of the things that I've always said, if we can just merge the two, and have understand that there's some traditional concepts and methodologies in education that we still need to maintain. I think phonics is huge. You know, you can't get away from pronunciation. I'd say to my son all the time, don't do lazy tongue on me. Don't do it. And he goes, Mom, I said, you're hanging out with these people and you've got lazy tongue, which means you're not, pronunciation is so important. And you know, in our community they call it talking white, being proper. I don't like that. It's being is being an effective communicator does not mean you're acting or pretending to be anything else but what you are, an educated person. So those are the things, you know, I'm saying to myself, you know, what are the five, and that's a question I guess, you know, to be asked at this moment is, you know, what are the five critical education areas we need to change to stop failing students? So what do you think those five critical areas are that we really need to focus on?
I think one of the biggest ones is and I always go back to this, and it really isn't students or teachers, but it's policy and funding. So I mean that's a huge piece of this. But I also think supporting teachers and leveraging data-driven decision-making practices is another area where teachers can be supported. On the student end, I think supporting young people with and you hit the nail on the head. Phonemic awareness is huge. Social emotional behavioral support. Mental health, those are, removing all the barriers from the academic world are huge. And really just enhancing, and again I'm gonna say this again, the workforce capacity. So as you think about just teachers and their ability to teach lessons, to design meaningful, impactful, engaging, culturally responsive, relevant lessons. Like when you think about that, how absolutely important that is and vital to a young person learning. And I think we tend to add all this other stuff in because the teacher's inability sometimes largely to meaningfully and thoughtfully plan for and engage young people. That's, I think, at the heart of this.
Okay, well, I'm going to say some of our 5 critical are the same and some are different. I think because I didn't go to school to be an educator, I see things a little bit differently than people actually had been they started out like, I want to go to school to be an educator. I went to school to be a chemist. So I look at it from this perspective: regardless of what government says or does, you're going to do what you have to do in that classroom. That responsibility, it narrows down to you. So, and I look at it from this perspective, and I always have. And even though people, and I'm at a different level, working in education, working with politicians on law policy, as it relates to education, I see it from that perspective. But I will say this: if you go into any classroom right now, most teachers don't even know what education policies are out there right now that regulate how they teach and what they teach, right? They just understand that I'm the social studies teacher, I'm the music teacher, I'm the math teacher, I'm the science teacher, and this is what I teach. A lot of them don't even know the law that impacts what it is that they do. They are administrating these assessments because the school district says we're supposed to, we're required. So for me, one of the number one things is that for you to be great at your job in any job, and the only thing I can say is, Shannon, you're an excellent example of what I'm saying. You're hired under a role, a responsibility, but you always do a 360 and you do this branch thinking. You are so great at branch thinking. You're like, I'm here, but what I do impacts this level, and this level. So therefore, i.e., I need to know these levels that my job impacts. You don't just look at them, you analyze them, you take them apart, you put them back together, you look at what's missing in them, and then you figure out, how can I effectively do my job better? That's one side. You look at the flip side and you say to yourself, do I have the skill set, the education, the knowledge base in order to support this role in all of these branches off of what it is that I do and how it impacts them? So you're one of those rare people that just don't walk in the door and say, this is my job and this is what I'm doing. And you don't do the 360 you do the 360 on how it impacts other people. And that's one of the things that I think for teachers, for school leaders, for community, for parents, for politicians, to understand how what you say and do impacts not only you, but other things. It's a branch effect. There's so many things coming off of that that's going to be impacted. And then I can use myself as an example. At no point in time did I ever think that what I taught in my classroom would impact the world. It would impact how a student felt or thought about themselves. It would impact how their parents communicated to them. It would impact how a student saw themselves beyond those 4 walls or beyond their 4 walls at home. But people have to start thinking, if you don't have $2, are you going to teach? Are you going to stand there? So to me, because I didn't go to school to be a teacher, I did whatever I had to do to teach my kids effectively. I looked at what the law was. What am I required to teach these kids in my chemistry class? Okay, these are the requirements. Those basic core requirements are not going to meet the standards of that student becoming a chemist. Those core standards are not going to meet the needs for them to pass the science portion on the test, on a state standardized test. It's not. So I had to make a choice, either to teach them the love and passion of science and how it impacts everything we do in our lives, or I was going to teach those common core standards, those required standards that we check the box on for people to graduate. So my thing is, the 5 critical shortage areas is that, one, you have to have a passion. You have to be very deliberate about what it is that you're doing and saying to these students. You have to apply what it is that you expect from these students, and you have to deliver it. One of the things I always say, you teach what you want to see. So if you're the example, you have to teach what you want to see, and you have to be just totally deliberate about it and intentional about it. You have to be socially aware of how what it is that's happening in that classroom is going to impact students, not just in your classroom, but outside of that classroom for years later. When students walk up to me and they go, "Oh, Miss Burkett, it blows my mind, because I'm thinking to myself, I was just a science teacher. I was just a math teacher. I was just a robotics teacher. I'm not thinking, oh my God. And because of you, that just makes me feel like I did something right. Because I didn't, honestly, I thought I didn't go to school to be a teacher. I didn't think I was that great. And the fifth thing is that if you're not getting what you need in your classroom, go to your school leaders, go to the community, go to your parents, write letters, do whatever you have to do to make sure your students in your classroom are taken care of. You know the saying, the squeaky, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you get your parents to write letters to your senator, to your local politicians, they're going to be like, oh, Miss Burkett's classroom, she had over 100 parents writing to our office. You've got to do what you got to do to make, if you don't have laptops, if your kids need hotspots, if you need curriculum, if you need books, do what you have to do. So those are like my 5 things. It's all about being self-aware of what it is for you to be excellent at what you do. That's it. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think that there, as you stated from the onset, is some overlap between what you've shared and what I've shared. I think that you also, and I would agree with you, there is absolutely a piece around passion and joy, right? But there's some circumstances that are outside of the sphere of control of teachers.
What's out of the circumstances? Give me an example.
I mean, when you talk about the conditions in the building, that's the responsibility of the leader.
Exactly.
So I would say around changing vision, mission, direction within a district, and providing specific professional learning and engagement around meeting the needs of kids. That is the responsibility of district and building leaders. And I think that just as teachers have to have the wherewithal to understand, know, and really diligently pursue kind of what's going to be best for kids. I think leaders need to be able to do that with an eye on supporting the professional learning of teachers.
Okay, but Shannon, when we talk about the conditions of a school, that's out of the scope of a teacher. But one thing that teachers can do, they can rally together and say, hey, we're going virtual until you clean this joint up. Like, we're out. So if they stand together on some of those things, they can.
Okay, so I don't disagree with appropriate workplace conditions, but what I do disagree with is teachers being an island unto themselves with the ability to take their ball and move it to a new court.
If the court is jacked up, we need. No,
I'm saying that's just not an option for most teachers in most scenarios.
What do you mean they can't rally together?
And I'm also saying that there are interconnected relationships between the parents, the students, the leaders, the curriculum, and teachers don't have the power to change that.
I don't think teachers have the power to change certain things, but I will say this: when teachers band together with parents and with the community, if your school is not safe for your kids and the conditions are not good, and you have the resources to go virtual, we're going virtual till you clean this place up. Now, as it relates to curriculum, every school district should allow teachers to provide some sort of feedback on what's being taught in the classroom. I don't understand why we wouldn't do that.
Don't disagree with
places you.
Don't disagree with you.
I mean, because if I have to teach it, then I want to know what it is that I'm teaching.
In student safety, I definitely agree with you as well. No one should be in a dangerous building.
They shouldn't, but in some cases, in a lot of cases, they are, because they're saying they don't have the financing.
I don't think we're on different pages, Burkett.
I don't think we are either.
No.
But I just like to fuss at you. So, guys, look, we'll be right back after these commercials.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me.
All right, Shannon. So we're back, and I'm going to tell you that one of the things that I love most about education is that it gives you an opportunity to use your imagination. And I think we've gotten away from using our imagination. Just taking common things, everyday things, and making it into something new and repurposing it. You know, we I was on a call earlier this week about the economy, and they were talking about whether or not we are looking at being eco-friendly. They said we spend billions and billions of dollars on clothing, shoes, handbags, coats, just the things to cover our body. But then those are also the number one things in the landfill next to plastic. So the question, and again, I relate what it is the need is going to be. So when we think about what the need is going to be in the future as it relates to our students, are we preparing them to be, I don't know, ambassadors of an eco-friendly space? Because right now, you know, we got our kids, a sneaker is 30 days old and they're trying to get the new one. I don't even know, you know, I can only say that and about the cell phones, because I know when my kid was growing up, I said, I just got the cell phone. It's not even 30 days old. Well, it's a new one coming out. It's the 10, it's the 12, it's the 18, it's the 22. What do you say about that? We're not, are we looking at, because when you look at schools, we still have books in schools or technology in schools or the furniture in schools that are like, I don't know, 10 years old or more in some cases.
Yeah, so I think you hit on a lot there. So I think consumerism
Mm-hmm.
is one. I think a poverty mindset is another.
But no, wait, stop. When you say poverty mindset, what do you mean? Like, what does that look like, you know, for the end user when you say poverty mindset?
Oh, you just used end user in concert with like poverty mindset. That's just the whole thing. But um, no, I know, coming from Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes uh, there were families, there
Mm-hmm.
were folks who were willing to make a sacrifice of quality of life in order to present a picture to the world that they were had more than they actually did. Let
Mm-hmm.
me give you a concrete example. I'm going to not pay DTE in order to buy these Jordans for my baby in the hopes that I can get some more money over the weekend and recoup that. And that's a real, those are real decisions that people make. So
Yes.
so you kind of hit that piece, and the
Mm-hmm.
need internally to show the world that I have this thing is a whole different, like, I think, conversation, one that I think a good psychologist should can come in and really do some things. And yeah, and I say poverty because it's not just people of color that make those
Mm-hmm.
decisions. And so that's one piece. But you mentioned imagination, and so I'm gonna just give you just this quick anecdote. You're familiar with the challenge, and sometimes it's done as an icebreaker with spaghetti noodles and tape and marshmallows, and whoever builds the highest tower wins, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there was this research study that was done, and very consistently, engineers and architects, those folks, like, they do the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
They understand the structures, the design, and all that good stuff. A close second um, is CEOs, but only if they are aided by their executive assistant, believe it or not. Um,
Really?
and a third in that study was kindergartners. So let me kind of paint this picture for you if I can. I would posit that uh, school robs young people of imagination. I
Wow.
think that students, by the time they get in the first, second grade, that's taken from them. And kindergartners still have the ability to see things as though they can be or should be in ways that we can't even
Mhm.
comprehend. And schools in the way that we've done school in the past 100 years is taking that from young people. And
Yes.
so I do agree with you wholeheartedly. We should dream. And we should also create places of joy for students, because I think that that's largely absent from the conversation. Places where I can't remember the last time I learned about something that I was truly interested in and didn't enjoy it and didn't enjoy the opportunity. And I think that to intentionally create those moments of joy for young people and opportunities for them to really think beyond and think outside the box is something that all teachers should do.
You know, I agree. And I'm trying to, when you look at kids, so I'm going to say in our underserved community, there's a couple things that I always ponder over. One, I think I read so much as a kid that my imagination was developed from creating and being immersed in these books, right? And they weren't all sci-fi, they were all kind of different books, but I would just imagine myself. And I remember my mother brought home this book and she handed it to me, and it was about African Americans. And I looked through it and I said, well, how did they get all these degrees and they were just a slave? Like, I just kept, they had all these degrees and they had invented all these things. And I would turn the page and they did this and they did that. So me growing up, I just imagined that I would have all of these degrees. I would be able to invent things. Like, I just thought that was just going to be my life. And I was set on that track. So I see everything as a challenge or an opportunity to create and do something new that no one else is doing, because that's the way I was immersed into it. And so when I think about how our students are being taught and what they're being immersed in today, it's more so, I don't want to say like sheep, but it is. It's like a sheep mentality, because in their minds, if everyone gets eyelashes, then I'm getting eyelashes. If everyone gets a ponytail, if everyone gets these shoes, if everyone's wearing this hoodie, if everyone, so when you go out, the idea of being different or unique in thought, concept, visually is just out the door, because you want to be a sheep. You want to look like and be like and act like everyone else instead of being uniquely you. So I don't, and so I say that to say, if that's the mentality or the concept that our kids are growing up in, and it's not so much imagination and thinking outside of the box, because for me, I never thought it was a box. I didn't even know what that meant. So when I started working and doing things, they were looking at me like, what is wrong with her? What is wrong with you all? I don't even understand. Oh, you want me to stay in this? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that. I thought, we were open, like there was no box, there's no line. I didn't know that. So yeah. So how do you flip that now? Because now kids are sheeps.
Um, in the scenario that you just recounted, you made me think about something. And there's a direct body of research that connects a young person's ability to see themselves beyond their current circumstance to lifelong success.
Yep.
If I can envision myself being successful 10 years from now, and I'm currently a fifth grader, then I am that much more likely to be successful. And it's just about the ability to see yourself outside of your current circumstance, going back to the value of imagination, coupling that with vision and maybe adding a little bit of determination and some direction, and you've got a whole recipe for success. But I say that to say this: it can get really easy to only see today. It can get really easy to only see this moment, especially when you're hungry, right? Especially when all of your basic needs aren't met. And so I think, and it goes back to wraparound supports for families, for students, to provide them with their basic needs so that they're not impeded by the fact that they don't know if their lights are going to be on when they get home. So seeing themselves outside of their current circumstance, just like you didn't even know that there was a box. That's why you're able to do what you do today. That's why you're able to see the world in the way that you see it today. And that is going to serve you for the remainder of your life.
But and thank you, Shannon, how do we get, when we say wraparound services, the only thing I can say is that when I was in the schools, I don't want to say it this way, but I'm going to just say it the way I see it and the way I experienced it. It was some parents, I don't care how many wraparound services you gave them.
Well, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, but you feel, but you do all you can for the parent, understanding the impact it's going to have on the student. But when the student keeps showing up in the same circumstance, after you've given this parent everything you can to help the student, you then begin to say, okay, what do I need to focus on a student when they're here, cultivate them, and still help the parent? I mean, I don't like, how do you juggle that? Because we say wraparound services, but I have to agree with some school leaders when they say we've done all we could do. Like, what else
It's
can
beyond
we do?
it's beyond school leaders. And let me say this: there's a direct correlation
Mhm.
between a mother's level of education and her children.
Thank you so much for saying that.
That's directly correlated, and it's not the father, and it really doesn't matter. And then that's really it matters in his ability to provide for his family,
Right.
but there's a scientific link between how far a mom has gone and how far the child will go. And I say that to say this:
Mm-hmm.
if you care for the mother, you're caring for the child.
It. Yep.
Let me take that 2 steps further. Jeffrey Canada and Harlem Empowerment Zone, when a mom finds out she's pregnant, hey mom, what are you doing? Let's make sure you're eating right. Let's make sure you have everything you need, and then let's make sure there's a career preparation program for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you're pregnant.
Yes.
And so if mom is in a place where she's able to provide for herself and her family, and the angst and the worry around where the next meal is coming from isn't the reality, then there's room to dream.
Mm-hmm. How do, Shannon, you know what? How do we get people? I'm going to go back to what we were talking about and tie it into what you were just saying. How do we get people to transition from, I need the latest and I'm willing to not pay my DTE bill, my electric bill, to get these sneakers for my kid, hoping that I get some side money in a couple days to meet this deadline because the shut off notice, to before the kid even gets here, you're prepared to be that parent and to make those sacrifices, to make those mature decisions. Because I feel like when the school gives you, and when so many people are giving you, then you're expecting, but we're expecting something back from you. And I really, it bothers me. I remember when we were in school, we had school therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, we had them all in the building. Now you don't have that. Those are external services that school districts contract out. And I'm really thinking, when we talk about parent wraparound services and support, in some states, there are laws that are tied to the welfare system, where parents are required to get, what we call now social emotional services to help them. But my concern is what they're doing in Harlem is amazing. I love the concept, but once that kid comes out, now that mom's putting Burberry socks on the baby, and now it's the mindset has changed. Like, my son didn't have, since from the time he was born until he got, too big, he's a giant, for me to put him in secondhand clothes. I was at a secondhand baby shop. I was at a secondhand teenager shop. You know what I mean? Like, I went to those places. He had nice clothing, but I didn't go to the regular store. I got this stuff from consignment shops. It was nice. I mean, he had designers, but he also understood the value of a dollar. So now to this day, my son says to me, oh no, that costs too much. I won't be able to get that. Not right now. I'm going to have to save my money, because he likes nice things, but he understands you have to save. So to your point, that is something that's taught by the mother. My son has seen me go to school. He knows I have multiple degrees. So he's focused on what? I need to go to school. I need to save money. You know what I mean? I don't just waste money. I can look nice and I save money. So my thing is, Shannon, how do we in the unserved community break that concept of, as soon as the baby comes out, do you know a baby had a birthday party bigger than my 50th birthday party? It was a first birthday party. I was like, the gifts at the birthday party were amazing. I got cards with like $5 in it. I didn't know what to think.
I guess I would ask Burkett, is that pair of Burberry socks for the 1-year-old or the newborn baby? Is that really for the baby?
It's in their mind.
Or is it to say to the world,
yes,
something else?
I think it's both. I think in their minds it's both. It's saying, oh, we good, but you're not good. You can't be good because of your financial situation. So my thing is, how do we shift that mindset and keep them on track from the time that you empower that mom, from the time the baby is in her womb, to keep focused on, let me make better decisions? How does that translate on a continuum?
Get rid of Instagram. And
You know
and listen, not Instagram in a way that because
it's an Instagram and TikTok and Twitter.
It's all of them.
It's all of them.
So
like,
here's the thing, because there is this, and I say that jokingly,
mm-hmm.
but there's this need to publish. There is this intense pressure to put on this perfect face
mm-hmm.
to the world at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You see folks at restaurants taking pictures of their meals and posting them. You see these carefully staged moments that people are attempting to capture and share with the world, so that they can show how great life is. And I think that need to publish and that need to show folks how good life is incredibly damaging. And I think those Burberry socks also play into that as well.
I agree with you 100%. And guys, we're going to continue this conversation when we get back from this commercial break. Okay, guys, we're back. And if you missed the conversation, we were talking about Burberry socks for newborn babies. I guess you're wondering, why did that come up? Well, it came up because we wanted to understand or gain some understanding around the conceptual idea that when you're pregnant with a child, and I can only speak from my perspective and being a mom, that I played Spanish. I used to put a headset on my stomach and I played Spanish songs, do re, anything in Spanish. I played it because I wanted my son to be bilingual. I read to him, because when I read to myself, I started to read out loud and he was in my stomach. And I didn't play certain music, and I kept all the mood really normal and soft and high energy. And you know what I got? I got this amazing kid who loves science and mathematics, who for the first almost 2 years of his life didn't understand English. He only understood Spanish. So my mother made me stop doing it because she's like, he doesn't understand a word we're saying. Only you can talk to the baby. And it was so unreal because I didn't understand. I used to watch shows where it said, the baby can hear in the stomach. And to me, it was like a science project. I needed to test the theory. So I did. I tested the theory, but I tested a lot of theories on my kid. But I'm going to say, my son is 6'4". He's amazing. He's high energy. He was a football player. I always wanted to play sports. He was a linebacker. That's the position I wanted to play. He loves science and mathematics. He's a leader. He's very independent. He's an only child, but he's very independent. He's not a follower. And he loves to give everybody everything he has. So when I look at him, I go, wow, I was an all right parent. I think I made some mistakes, but overall, like, this kid is pretty rock star. So my thing is, Shannon, when we look back to that moment and we keep talking about education equity, I feel like it starts from the time the baby's in the womb to the concept of what kind of parent you're going to be. And by the way, everybody, you're probably thinking, well, she was much further ahead because she had money. No, I didn't. I was a single mom, and I went from being a chemist to being an educator so I could be at home with my kid and take care of him. I didn't have a lot of money. I just made the best decisions I could, and I sacrificed in order to make those things happen. And now, he'll be 20, April 26th. This guy's kind of rock star. Like, I always say to him, I kind of like you. You're cool with me. I like you. You're a cool kid. And then there are some days when I say, I just don't like your attitude. I need you to tighten this up. But, he's not perfect. He's got things. But I'm going to say overall, he's a good 90%. He's a good person. But the thing is, Shannon, what is it that our young moms are missing, or moms in general? We got moms that are 30 and 40 years old who are still not putting their kids first. So when we talk about education equity, and we talk about the wraparound services, and we talk about all the things we're doing to support them, when we're giving them this basket of help, and they're still not giving the kid what they need to be an out-of-the-box thinker, the next great inventor, right? The person that's going to solve the next big issue. I just don't get that part. Like, what do you think we could do better or more of, not just in education, but just as individuals, to help people see what you're doing impacts your kids' life, and not always in a positive way?
So I cannot answer that question from the perspective of a parent, but I can answer the question from the perspective of an educator. What you shared in telling the tale of your pregnancy and raising your son, and let's go back to the multi-sensory learning experiences that you provided them. Let's go back to the linguistic diversity that you provided, the kindness, the joy, the strong, like, moral, upright upbringing that you provided. That's what we can do. We can prioritize them, their learning, their needs, and meet them. That's what you did, and look at the result. Aside from that, I would be all kinds of wrong if I even thought about trying to tell someone how to raise their child. But I can say this.
Why would you say that? Because you don't have one?
Don't. And so,
Shannon, Shannon, you stop. You've helped thousands of
I have.
You've helped thousands of kids. So you may not have birthed any of these kids, but I know for sure you have. You've done what parents should have done for a lot of kids.
So I can speak educationally, and I just shared a few things, but prioritizing that child's needs, providing meaningful, focused opportunities to become immersed in other languages, other cultures, other experiences, a strong, like, real clear moral code. Like, this is how you treat people. Be kind to others. Like, those basic lessons that my mother and father taught me. Like, so yeah, those things work most of the time.
I think they do work. I think one of the things that I totally applaud my parents for, My mom graduated from high school. She was an A student. She got pregnant and wasn't able to go to college, but she was a very intelligent woman. She started her own business. And she was just a good homemaker in general, and I love that. When I got home from school, it was always, snacks before
Mm.
dinner was ready. And you sit down at the kitchen table. And I know people say, I lived that kind of lifestyle. That's what happened. You did your homework, you sat in the kitchen. We talked about my day, how it went. And my mother was a seamstress and she made the most beautiful clothing, and I paid attention to details. But I'm not a seamstress at all, but that made me think everything that you do is important. It says a lot about who you are. When she sewed her tag into every one of those things that she made, and I used to say, well, who are you sewing these clothes for? Because I never saw her clients because I was at school. And when we got home, she wouldn't let people come over to the house unless it was urgent. But then she made us go upstairs, and her shop was in the basement. And I remember my mother took me with her to make a delivery, and it was one of the biggest judges in Detroit. My mother was making like these beautiful outfits for this woman who was a judge. And I remember when that woman looked at me and she says, "This is the infamous Christine." And she said, "Well, how are you?" And I said, "Just fine." She says, "I hear you're a very smart young lady and you do experiments." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You keep it up." She says, "But don't do too many more dissections," because I used to dissect a lot of insects, spiders, worms. I didn't care. I was dissecting stuff in the backyard. I didn't care. But the thing is that when my mother did that, to me, that gave value to me to what she was doing. You know what I mean? I didn't understand that her work was valued that much, that this woman who was a judge was wearing my mother's clothes instead of going to a store. So in my mind, when my mother made me stuff, Shannon, I thought I was like, I was like Queen Elizabeth. I was like, my mother made this. It gave me a sense of pride. And so I'm wondering now, what are parents giving to kids when you go through neighborhoods? Kids are not cutting the grass anymore. They rather pay the landscape guy $20, $25 to cut the grass. I don't know how they get the $20, $25, but instead of them cutting it, it's the landscape guy, Pookie and the gang is cutting it. Or the guy pushing the lawnmower, they pay him 15 or 10 and he cutting it. Something is but they're not doing it. House cleaning in a lot of cases is a little limp. um just basic concepts of how to fix things on your house. You go to a lot of homes, and I know when I did home visits, you would walk up and the railing was coming off of the house. So it's like, taking care of your property, understanding where you live is an example of who you are, your cleanliness. And I know if you don't have a lot of money, at least your house is clean. I know my cousins who lived in the projects. Honey, you could eat off her floor. I didn't even know we were in the projects until I got older. I didn't know that was the projects. I thought it was just houses stuck together. I didn't know. We didn't talk about it like that. But honey, my aunt's house was clean. You could eat off the floor, and she would take old curtains and make them new curtains at her house. But she took pride. And all of her boys are successful right now to this day because she took pride. So I mean, Shannon, do you think we should, I don't know, offer classes, experiences? I don't know what to do. Like I feel like I want to put together a program to help single moms experience life, that it could be better or different if they just put their children first.
You said something. You said that when you got home from school, there was a snack. There was a place where someone was able to inquire about your day, to ensure that you had an opportunity to get your homework done. There was attention being paid to you specifically, in addition to having all the other basic needs handled in the way of electricity, running water, and gas and lights and all that stuff. It sounds like you had a really well-rounded, supportive, loving environment, and sounds like your mom was pretty awesome.
She was rock star. I'll just give her a shout out.
Now, I don't. You can't give what you don't have.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I think that often.
So this is so much bigger than moms and their training. It really is about the conditions that create the situation that make it possible for a young woman in this country to have a child and not be able to meet his basic needs without very much effort. And I think, and I keep going back to funding, to policies that create these situations. These young ladies aren't bad.
They're not.
These young ladies just don't have the tools and skills that they need in order to do what your mom did.
Agreed. And so, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we get right back, we're going to talk about how we can help those young ladies in any capacity or any way we can. And please, if you're watching and you have some great ideas, be sure to put them in comments for us. We'll be right back. Okay, guys, welcome back to Educators Roundtable. You know, before we left, we talked about how people are doing the best that they can with the tools and resources and the life experiences that they've had up to that point. I was fortunate that although I didn't grow up with a lot of money, my mom did the best she could, but she was an excellent example of what it was for you to be a good mom, a good homemaker. And obviously she cooked every day. And anyone who knows me, I didn't pick up that skill set, but that's not the point. I may not be the best cook, but I know how to decorate and keep my house clean and do my laundry and all of that cute stuff. And as my son says, my mom has 3 good dishes. So he obviously made it through on those 3 good dishes. But the thing is how can we help shift the mindset of these women? And one of the things, you know, Shannon, I look at all the time is how I emulate without any, you know, I don't like doing the pretend. And that's why when I'm around young ladies and I speak all over the country, when I talk, I always tell people the person you see today, she's 50 years old. I became this person over time. Don't think that the minute you walk out that door and you're 16, 15, you have to be this person you see today. Because I wasn't this person at 15 or 16, right? So, and I think that's the thing. They see so much social media. They see so many people being very pretentious. And it concerns me that at 15 or 16, you feel like you have to put on eyelashes. You feel like you have to cinch your waist. You have to put on a lot of makeup. I didn't even start wearing makeup until, my gosh, I'm going to be honest about it, 30. I must have been 30 years old before I even started wearing makeup. I was doing lip gloss and rocking it. You're like, what? I still don't wear eyelashes. I don't understand that. I can't make that magic happen. But the thing is, they grow up thinking they have to be a woman. And the young men grow up thinking, I don't know what, because their pants are sagging. So it's like the opposite. They're growing up looking like glamour girls, and the boys are growing up with their pants down. So I don't know. It's like, how do you, it's not even the same. Like, how do you, and the thing is, these are the parents. You got the guy with the sagging pants and the young lady who's a glamour girl, and they've got the kid with the Burberry socks on, who's a newborn. And then you're trying to help them be better parents, to be better people. So yeah, funding is one thing, but once we get the funding, how do we create that environment where they can see that there's other options?
I'm going to answer that question, but I want to go back to something that you just said. And you talked about cooking a moment ago. Mm-hmm. It's interesting in the way that you described it. You said, I do all the other stuff. and I got all down, but you know, it's just the cooking, right? Like the cooking, it's not my thing. I got 3 good dishes. You could talk to my son; he can attest to that.
Yes.
Like, you know, I generally order out, and it was fascinating to watch you share your definition of a woman
Mhm.
and share what I think you might think is a shortcoming today.
Yeah.
And kind of explain it away, right? Like, hold up, wait, you know, not perfect, right?
No.
And I would push back on that and say, today we get to define those roles based on what's best for our household and our family.
Mhm.
And I think that we've got to let go of some of that stuff that we're holding on to, that I think prevents us from living our best lives. And so and let me push your thinking and say, so what if you don't cook, right? I mean,
Thank you, Shannon.
no, it's like, really, who cares? And just for the record, I cook 90% of the meals in my house because I enjoy it. It's
Thank you.
something for me to do that means something, that it gives me the opportunity to create something for my wife on a daily basis with love, with my hands. So for
See,
me,
that's beautiful.
it's a privilege to do so. So the whole, yeah, just so
Just
now,
wipe that away.
to get back to the question that you asked me,
Yes.
and the question was, you're right, it's not just funding.
Yeah.
It at all. No, not at all. It's funding. It's really taking a long, hard look at the policies that have created the conditions that we find ourselves in. And that goes to everything from insurance rates for vehicles. Like, have you ever met someone who said, I'm using so and so's address to get
Oh
this
my
place,
God.
who
Yes.
lives in this place, because
Yes.
I mean, the people who need it most,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The people who are impacted the most are paying the most, and they have the least.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So it's not just money, but it's
Mhm.
also really taking a comprehensive look at the life of those that are just most in need, and saying, you know, how can we take off some of this pressure and create space for that young lady to think about how she's going to be in the life of this young person in the way that makes the most sense.
I like that, Shannon. And that's absolutely wonderful. And thank you for saying that about me. I get a lot of knocks about my cooking thing. Dr. Mason, thank you so much for joining us tonight. She said workforce development skills through Focus Hope. It has a daycare available on site for parents who are in training. So if you're in Detroit, Michigan, please go to workforce development skills through Focus Hope. It has daycare available on site for parents who are in training. So be sure, guys, that you take a look at that. And then Dr. Mason also just shared with us Spectrum Human Services have a variety of programs to help young adults and parents. Again, that's Spectrum Human Services have a variety of programs to help young adults and parents. And I know Spectrum Human Services, they are available throughout the United States. So you need to find out what services they provide in the state where you're located. Thank you so much, Dr. Mason, for tuning in tonight and providing us with that additional information. Shannon, one of the things that you said just totally permeates, and I know people are going to think, well, I can't believe Christine is saying this. I think the mother plays a huge role on how a child looks at himself or herself. And not saying that the father doesn't play a role in that. They definitely do. But I'm going to tell you, you spend 9 months inside of anybody's body. I don't know what to tell you. That bond between a mother and a child is so intense that even now, my in the pit of my stomach, I will call my son out of the blue and say, "Are you okay?" He will go, "Mom, I'm good." And then he'll say, "What's going on?" Because I know something with him is not right. And in the pit of my, I don't even know why, but I know like something's wrong with my baby. And it makes me, so the other night, it it was 313 day. I think it was on Sunday here
That
in
was
Michigan.
Sunday. That
It
was
was
Sunday.
Sunday.
No, 313 Day is here in New Jersey as well. I'm just
Oh, it is? Okay. So I didn't know anything about it. And he comes over and he goes, Mom, I'm going to this 313 no, he says he's going to the Pistons game. And I'm calling him because the Pistons game is over. And when I called him, he goes, I'm at a concert. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what are you doing at the concert? And then it sounded like, I don't know, he's almost an adult. He's having a little, I said, Julian, are you drinking? He says, what did he say? Not Tostitos, but what's that drink? Starts with a T.
It's probably
Tito's.
Tito's vodka, made in Texas. I don't know a lot about it, but yeah.
So in my mind, I go in full mommy mode. Where is this garden, whatever? Why is he on Tito's? And so and it's so funny because he immediately called me back. Mom, I'm not drinking. I tasted a little bit. You know, I don't like alcohol. I'm not drinking. And I said, thank you. He says, because I know you were upset about it. Although you say you were okay, you were upset about it. And I was, but I didn't want him to know I was upset. Because when I hung up the phone with him, I was putting my boots on and a coat because I was going down and tell them that I was looking for my son.
That's a mother.
Right?
Right?
So the only thing I can say to moms out there is that, you know what? Education, and we allow other people to educate our children throughout the day. But the core of education and the practice and application of it is going to come when they hit home. And one of the things that I can tell you, and I so much value, is that my mother said to me, I think I was in middle school, and my mother realized in middle school, she said to me, you're so much smarter than me. So by the time I got to high school, I remember ninth grade, I was so upset with her because I was very shy and I didn't talk. My mother dropped me off at Wayne State University in the math department. She said, I don't know how to help you with this algebra. I'm going to take you to the college and they'll help you. But in my mother's mind, she didn't call anybody. Her attitude is, it's a bunch of smart people on this campus. Somebody's going to help her. So she dropped me off in the math department at the math building. And she said, I'll be back in an hour. And she meant that. And honey, she dropped me off. And finally, after a couple weeks of me coming there, a math person did come over to me and said, hello, we see you here. And how are you? I said, hello, my name is Christine Burkett. And they said, I said, my mother doesn't know how to help me with my algebra. Can you all help me? And they were like, of course. So they just basically just brought me on in. And my mother, she said, well, one day she said, I was waiting for you for 2 hours. Where have you been? I said, finally, somebody talked to me and they helped me with my math. When we got home, my mother said, well, show me what they showed you. And that was a moment where I just could not believe that she wasn't that smart. I didn't understand that she was dropping me off because she couldn't do it. I thought she was just dropping me off for whatever the reason. I didn't understand. But in that moment, I was shocked.
It wasn't that she wasn't that smart.
Right.
She was wise enough to ensure that the resources were there.
And that's one of the things that I look back at my life and I say, man, that's some kind of mother, right? That you would do this for me, understanding you went as far as high school, but she knew even in middle school that my kid is going to end up going to college because I can see that in her right now in this moment, right? And she encouraged that. And just to let you know, in my senior year, I end up going to Wayne State University as a college student while I was a senior in high school because of what my mother did for me. I looked at school totally different because of that exposure that I had. And I'm so grateful that she figured it out earlier on. And that's one of the things we just talked about. Even when a parent appears to have limitations, if you just think outside of that moment, you could really help and advance your child reach the level that they need to reach in order to be successful in life. So we just need to think about those things. But Shannon, I'm going to tell you, people don't even understand. You and I could talk and the show could be off the air. Education is our thing. And we really look at it through so many different lenses. But in the heart of it, folks, we want to do what's best for not only kids, but for parents, for teachers, for education, the concept, the idea around education and the outcome. And when Shannon and I talk about these different things, just to let you know, both of us are in school. both of us are looking at, we do things outside of our regular day jobs related to education to encourage and influence people to make positive change. Shannon, I'm going to tell you right now, and this show is being recorded, I think you're a future politician. I think you'd be an excellent senator or a politician in education, a huge advocate. And I think you can make positive change. So if you ever decide to run for senator, I'm telling you right now, I'm signing up, honey. Whatever you need me to do, campaign manager, support, rap, whatever you need, I'm there. I think you'd be great.
I appreciate the cosign, sister, but I'm just going to keep it where it is. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys, on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us for another session of Educators Roundtable. We'll see you next week. And next week, I think we're going to do an exciting topic for you guys, something absolutely out of the box thinking. And we're going to give you guys some demonstration on what life can be if you think outside of the box. See you next week.